So when people tell me I hate running, I'm always like, I'm sure you're going out and trying to run as fast as you can.
Right.
So that's what we're not doing. Kind of like she said, I mean, we know we've got a 4 or 5 hour day. So we're just going to go out there and we're going to run the mile we're in. So whatever's happening at that time, we're going to do. But then at the end of the 5 hours, we'll look and, we kind of have a target probably of how many miles we expect to get in during that time frame. But you don't kick yourself if you don't, because it's more about the time on your feet.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Healthy Living Wichita podcast with GoTimeTraining. I'm your host, Raymond Elliott, lead personal trainer at GoTimeTraining in Northeast Wichita, Kansas. I've been in the fitness industry for over 20 years now, and I've seen it all. This podcast cuts through all the fads and gimmicks to give you the science-based truth on all things fitness and nutrition, so you don't have to try to figure it out on your own. If you want to live happier and healthier and get the scoop on how to work out, eat right, and keep a positive mindset, you're in the right place. It's go time. Now, let's get to the show. Healthy Living Wichita is going. You don't have to say how old you are. So I have my wonderful guests, Krystle and Peggy Ward. They're also clients of GoTimeTraining, which is amazing. Peggy just came on board, so we're so thankful to have her. I know Krystle for, I don't know, it's been a while.
Forever.
When I get old, I'm always like, it's been a couple years. I'm like, you've known me since 1992. And you're like, that's like 30 years ago. But anyways, we've known each other for a while. You're only like, what, 25? Speaking of age? Something like that.
Plus 10 plus.
Right. So, anyways, we brought them on because they're going to talk a little bit about some ultramarathons, some stuff I have no idea about. So this would be the one time that I probably shut up and don't add too much input. But just before we get into all those fun things, I want to introduce you and kind of, say a little bit about yourself, Krystle and Peggy. So whoever wants to take the mic first or share the mic, I guess in this instance.
Hello everyone, I'm Krystle and I grew up in Moundridge, Kansas, not that far away, and have lived in Wichita ever since I graduated from university at Washburn and law school from Washburn. I am presently an attorney at Hinkle Law Firm. I have one son. I'm married to my high school sweetheart and fellow dog lover, enjoy being outside, and which is why I like running so much.
How did you marry somebody that wasn't a dog lover? Is that possible?
No. No.
All right. Peggy?
Okay, so my name is Peggy Ward, and I grew up in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, but my family is from Kansas, so I ended up in Kansas for high school, so I've stayed here. Graduated from Hutch JUCO and then WSU. I've actually, during my ultra running career, have had 2 full-time jobs and been training for ultra running, so when people tell me they don't have time to run, I kind of question that. So I was teaching full-time at WSU. I actually stopped that gig officially in May because I'm also president and CFO of JP Wygant and Sons.
Nice.
I've got one daughter. The 3 pets that she left me with when she went off to college have sadly passed away, and I just don't know if I have time for any more pets with all the hectic lifestyle, but I am a dog lover. In fact, Sydney's Pet Resort over there. I'm like, hey, I could just drop the dog
marry
off.
Peggy if you need
There we
to.
go.
So that's always good to know.
We could get our running
We're
in.
compatible.
There you go.
Yeah,
and
so
run.
there you go. So
Excellent.
I think that covers it.
Yeah, so obviously very accomplished women that have done amazing things. And one of those things is ultra running, which, like I said, is crazy to me. I love running, and I understand, and I'm not like against cardio. A lot of times I joke around and say I am. I actually was part of a running team and try to really get into it. I know that it's very beneficial. A lot of people love it, and moved myself from Tulsa, and I came here, and I just noticed that it is a very big part of the Wichita community. So this is awesome for our viewers, and that's the main thing we're doing on here is trying to help people get involved in different activities, be healthier, live better lives, and have that avenue to be able to share versus just being able to share with our personal training clients. So that being said, ultra running, why? Why and how? How do you get into ultra running? How does that become a thing for you guys?
I think how you get into it is you have a friend who does it, and you're kind of maybe a little bit in awe of that friend. I think you have this general like for running in and of itself, but I think I got into it by having friends that did it and just kind of wanting to spend time with them, and I think also just the mentality behind it. It's usually a little bit easier going, friendlier environment than your shorter marathon, half marathon, 5Ks. So that just worked out for me.
Ultra running friendlier? Seems like a
Yes.
long...
It's a community. I mean,
Yeah.
just the community of support and friendship. And I was a little bit different than that because I didn't know anybody who had ever done that. I did a marathon, got second in my age group, and I thought, oh, I'm going to keep doing this then. And the second time I didn't do as well, and I felt like I was reliving the same dream, the same goal, and I thought, is there more? Is there something harder I could be doing?
Yeah.
And so that's when I found the 50 up at Heartland, which was right up the road in Cassidy, and I thought, I might as well go for it and see what it's about. And you just kind of get hooked when you get into that community of ultra runners.
Yeah, community is so much in culture. We see this a lot with like CrossFit, something that we obviously try to do within our gym, but that's an amazing aspect, I think, of anything, that camaraderie. So I guess, I mean, one thing, some viewers might not even know what like the ultra running is, and like what does that all entail? Like, so how do you differentiate that from like a 5K or a marathon? Like, what's the specifics of it, I guess?
For me, I've always been told an ultra marathon is anything over your standard 26.2. So that goes up to 50K, which is 31 miles, 50-mile races, there's 100Ks, which is 62 miles, and 100 miles. Peggy's getting ready to do 135 miles here.
I don't like to drive that far. What AC?
So it pretty much, to me, an ultramarathon is anything over your 26.2, and the N seems to be limitless. So.
Yeah. So we can go up to 100 and what, 36 you said?
135.
135.
I'm not
Sorry,
gonna
I'm
do
adding it.
extra
You're
mile,
gonna.
I'm sorry.
I know everybody says like the marathon is at like 0.2 or whatever, that it is so difficult. Yeah, so I won't add another mile to
Yeah,
that. 135. That's
yeah.
that's ridiculous. So how what's the difficulties of like getting into that, and then obviously there's lots of difficulties with doing it. I would say so. Like, what's the struggles of just like even getting in shape for, finding races to do? Is it hard?
Well, there's Ultra Sign Up, I think is the most popular way to find races right now, and unless there's another one I don't know about. There is another one, but I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I thought there was a
So
second
finding
one.
a race is a lot easier than it wasn't, in 2006 when I started.
Right.
And so then it's just kind of figuring out what is going to be required during that race. So every race has its own specifics. Is it trail? Is it on the road? Is it hot? Is it cold?
Right.
I mean, is there crew? Is there not? Where are the aid stations? I think first you've got to wrap your mind around what are going to be the challenges other than just the mileage.
Right.
Because the mileage sometimes isn't the hard part.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I never thought about that. So there's also a lot of different things to like a lot of sports. You have to try to figure out those aspects as well.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was going to know, how do you train for something like that, and how's the training? Like, what do you do? Somebody out here, they say, that sounds awesome. Peggy's inspired me. Krystle's inspired me. I'm going to try to start setting those up. I'm going to go to that website. I'm going to listen to this, and I'm going to get involved in it.
I feel like each runner probably has their own training they do. I know early on I was kind of always told, put in long mileage, put in 100-mile weeks, 200-mile months, just run. And anymore, especially after I started going here to GoTime, cross training for me has been more beneficial than just pounding out the miles day after day after day. And I actually have backed off on some of my longer mileage running over the past couple of years, partly because of work and my son's getting older and involved in more sports, but just I found that I don't need to run that much. My legs tend to be fresher going into it. But I think usually what still I have found to be important is going out on your Saturdays and Sundays and doing back-to-back long mileage those days, and then just trying to be consistently active during the week.
Yeah. Peggy, you kind of what?
Similar story. When I started ultra running in 2006, I ran a lot. Kind of like she said, you had this running schedule, you did it. Sometimes it was speed work. I was a lot faster then. In fact, the first 50 miler I ran, I won, and I, just kind of felt like, okay, this is what I want to do. But then when I tried to take it up to 100 miles, I was always injured and there was always something wrong. So Krystle and I did this thing called the Kansas Grand Slam, which is 4 100s in about 8 months. And then I threw a 40 in there for a training run because I wanted to see kind of the course anyway.
Right.
So my
practice
mentality
course.
for that completely changed to I just want to finish these. So then I went to what she's talking about. I did my long runs every weekend and then cross-trained during the week or did cardio machines during the week just to stay uninjured more than anything. And then you kind of think about total body fitness, and that's where Caleb's really helped me a lot.
Yeah, nice. Both of you guys, I noticed weight training, and I actually wrote a blog, and when I got into the blog, how to weightlift to improve your runs, not just your guns. I think that was the name of it. I'll have to add a link to it in case you wanted to know. But as we learn about basically how we create energy for a long distance runner, there are going to be more type 1 muscle fibers, fight oxidatives, and the training is going to be kind of different. And when you're doing more resistance training, it's more anaerobic. So a lot of people's basically train in the fashion that you're going to be doing, try to maximize those potentials. But what we found out that you're, like you said, it does help prevent a lot of injuries, and also it also makes you more efficient. So you have less energy that's exposed because you have better biomechanics because they're stronger. It's just like an engine that has kind of a bad part to it. You're going to lose a lot of oil and gas and energy that way. So you guys are a lot more efficient, and it should help out with your running ability to be able to do it longer. And then also injuries. Actually, running is the most injury-related sport. It's more injury than football. Oh, wow. So you have to be very careful. So yes, read my blog. It's a great, great plug out there. But yeah, there's lots of, and that's one of the biggest, I would say, downfall sometimes of running is those injuries. But they are finding that with resistance training and stretching and some of those other avenues are really important. So that's awesome. Another great avenue probably as important is nutrition. Do you guys do certain nutrition protocols? Is it beer and chips or sorry, I was doing my protocol. What's your guys' protocol?
I have been much better in the past than I currently am as far as nutrition. It's one thing I struggle with the most. I always tell people it's easier for me to run like an ultramarathoner, but I don't necessarily, or I always eat like I'm an ultramarathoner, but I'm not necessarily always training like I'm an ultramarathoner. So, so that probably nutrition is one thing I struggle with, but just making sure you're not depleted before you go into it. I'm to the point where I don't really carb load anymore because we're used to eating while we're running.
Right.
And so just kind of making sure you're getting a good nutrition probably 1 to 2 weeks out, that you're not trying to quick drop weight all of a sudden. So but maybe being careful with making sure you're not eating a lot of greasy foods or something like that, just so your stomach is going to be settled. But we're used to eating while we're running. That's part of the joy of ultra running for me, anyways. 'Cause I want to eat that quesadilla or cheeseburger or whatever it is when I'm in the middle of a run. So
yeah, because I imagine you expend a lot of calories and you probably need that energy.
Yeah.
So, Peggy, you do any kind of specialized dieting? Is there anything nutrition-wise? Or
last year I did experiment. So my daughter's grown, so it's really hard to cook for one person.
Right.
So I've been using Evolve as my meal service, and they started doing these challenges. And so I did some reading on long distance runners who use keto. Okay. So I did Salt and Sea last year, and so I did a keto diet while I was training for that. And I wasn't 100% true to it though, because when you have a 4 or 5 hour run in one day, you're just hungry.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's really hard to stay true to that. But for the most part, I was, and it was kind of interesting. The way I felt during the race was a little bit different.
Better?
So I've used that, for
really?
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
And so then I've kind of used that a little bit for this race. Although this month they switched their challenge to a whole 30, and again, I just don't want to think about food, so I just do what they're doing and. Then I supplement with snacks based on what I'm hungry for.
Your
basically.
energy levels, yeah. So a little bit of something, but you also kind of have your own way of doing that. Yeah, because I've read a lot of different studies on ketos, and I don't want to because keto's so important. But
Right.
you know, I
I'm
have
not
seen
trying
where
to promote it.
where they've shown that it can hinder performance.
Yeah.
But I think each person's individual. It
Right.
makes sense because a lot of times in those long distance running, you are going to be using some glucose as part of that, but you're also going to be using primarily fat as a fuel source. So if you have, if your body's more efficient at utilizing it, it might be a better energy source. But I haven't seen it impact performance too much from the studies, but I don't read one every day, so who knows what's
But
out
like
there.
I said, I was supplementing with my own snacks, so
Right,
I wasn't
right, that helps.
necessarily staying true. But it was just a way to eat healthy, and then otherwise it's like ice cream and candy for me. I mean, I'm out of control.
Well, I always kind of tell people sometimes, because that's a struggle with me when I'm working with people that has cosmetic goals, but they also have performance goals, and sometimes they don't always mix because you want to have plenty of gasoline in the tank and maybe some in reserve. But when you're dieting, you typically kind of want to always be on empty, and so sometimes they don't always match, and that's maybe where you're like weeks prior to it, I kind of change up some things or different aspects. But so we've kind of tackled a little bit of like the fitness needs, the need and the cardio needs. So something I always kind of say jokingly is that when I go to hell, I'm not going to hell, but if I was to go to hell, if I was to go to hell, that would probably be like a treadmill facing a wall. That would be like, you just like, there you go. And that would be for the rest of eternity. So the reason why I say that is to say this is because mentality has got to be a very difficult thing. And I said that was one of the things that actually was appealing to you guys. How do you, for people out there that just want to run a mile or just want to get up and go to the gym and do some yoga, it's difficult for them to push through that. So I can only imagine 135 miles, 50 miles, any of those things, the mentality aspect. How do you deal with that? And, how do, you could inspire others like, shoot, if you're doing 135, I should be able to go to yoga class twice a week or do a boot camp, It's all a struggle, but that's a huge mentality struggle, in my opinion.
At least for me, first of all, what you described, being on a treadmill facing the wall for eternity, I don't want to do that. Ever.
Good.
I don't want to do that
Good.
for 1 mile.
Yeah.
That sounds awful. For me, it's usually being outside with your running community,
Makes
your
a difference.
friends. That makes a huge difference. I like to be outside. I like to spend time outdoors, and so for me, I just kind of get it in my head. I'm gonna go for X number of hours, whether I'm walking, whether I'm running, whether I'm crawling. I am gonna be outside for the next 20, 30 hours, and I just kind of, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm starting at 6 a.m. and I'm gonna finish at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then I just, every step you take is bonus towards. If you're running, you're gonna get done quicker. If you're walking, you might get done a little bit slower. But I just tell myself, okay, I'm gonna finish at such and such time, and then you just keep going until you finish.
That's you're trying to reach that time. That's all you're focused on. Like whatever that is,
and I don't. It's easier if you start like getting yourself super psyched about going a certain speed. When you're talking about those types of distances, a lot can go wrong in a hurry. There's periods of time where you feel awful, you're tired, and then there's other periods of time where you feel great and you're running really fast, and so you have ups and downs through that time period, and so you just try to keep going, and for me, I just say I'm going to finish at such and such time, and then don't try to push it and make sure I hit that goal. So
same thing for you, Peggy. How you get through that mental?
I usually start a race with a hierarchy of goals, and the first goal is always I'm going to finish, and I'm going to finish in the time frame, and then anything after that is gravy. And I think the times that you make a mistake is the times that you don't have that as your primary goal. Kind of like Krystle said, things happen, so you just have to run the mile you're in. I mean, maybe your blood sugar has dropped, maybe it's hotter than you expected, maybe something went wrong, but you've got to mentally work through the mile you're in. So when people tell me I hate running, I'm always like, I'm sure you're going out and trying to run as fast as you can.
Right.
So that's what we're not doing. Kind of like she said, I mean, we know we've got a 4 or 5 hour day. So we're just going to go out there and we're going to run the mile we're in. So whatever's happening at that time, we're going to do. But then at the end of the 5 hours, we'll look and, we kind of have a target probably of how many miles we expect to get in during that time frame. But you don't kick yourself if you don't, because it's more about the time on your feet. Because you just keep moving forward. I mean, that's the goal. The clock is against you, so you just need to keep moving forward as much as you can.
It's kind of a great analogy for life, right? You just you have a task at hand. You set a goal, and you just have to kind of keep moving forward, and you have to endure and go through. I can imagine there's probably times out there. I'm just a very impatient person, so I love sports. I love activity. It's just I get really bored, and it's difficult for me. So like to do something long distance for that, I'm not saying I couldn't, and maybe it's something if I was to venture do, I would enjoy more. But I would imagine there's got to be times out there where you're just like, this is like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. Or at least I would think. I don't know, maybe you never had those feelings, but you would think after like 20 miles, 30 miles, 40, 50, 100 miles, you'd be like, I don't know if I want to go any further. I don't know if I can. Never have that. That never crosses your mind, or is never those periods you like start to break down, or it's just always you're good.
I always think, for some reason, mile 83 is kind of a psychological turning point.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I have only 17 miles left, and that's not a very long training day. So you can get it done. I mean, there's times in a race where you're just ready to be done.
Right.
I mean, something's hurting, something doesn't feel right, but you're just not going to give in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's almost that mile 70 to 85 window where you're just that's the worst point. It's usually at the middle of the night and you're super tired. But if you can get past mile 85, you're almost done.
Mm-hmm.
And so then your mind kind of
Just
switches.
get past that 85 mile and you're
your
good to
your
go.
mind kind of
Stop.
switches where you're like, okay, maybe in 3 to 4 hours I'm going to be done, and you almost start pushing it harder,
you're almost there.
going faster, because as if you can go hard, then you're going to be done, and
There's
you're
light
going
at
to
the
get
end
to
of the tunnel.
sit down and go to sleep and take your shoes off.
You don't get a finisher beer?
You get your finisher beer.
That's important. That's the only reason I've ever ran a race.
You don't have to
Just plain.
move
That
at
and a
all
t-shirt.
once you hit that finish line.
Yeah.
So you kind of start actually, it starts getting a little bit better.
Yeah.
So.
Do you I mean, because I imagine, that's a lot of, we talked about injuries before. Is there a recovery process after that? Do you have to stretch? Do you need to do some mobility? Is there massages, or is it just like relaxing? Is there replenishing of food and nutrients? Like what's the feelings afterwards, and how do you get past being sore?
My biggest number one kind of struggle that I have, I tend to get blisters, and so I have less. Usually my legs are kind of stiff, and my quads especially get kind of knotted up. But if a foam roller, I can move around better, and if I stretch, I usually can kind of loosen things up. But my feet tend to need to heal up before I can actually run again, and that takes about a week for me.
Okay.
And then by the time my feet kind of heal up, then I'm usually able to run without any issues. And so I have about a week time period that I'll try to go out and walk and be mobile, and I know I should swim more than I do, but I know swimming's a great recovery. And then I'm always hungry. If I finish a race on Sunday morning, Tuesday's my day where I want to eat everything in sight.
Oh.
So
I can imagine that. You've depleted everything.
yeah.
Peggy, is there anything that you do post, or is there something to help you recover, or how do you feel bad afterwards?
Well, kind of like Krystle said, I mean, right after the race, you're just kind of tired, and so we've been up for at least 24 hours at that point. So usually that's on a Sunday. So what I try to do after a race is just take a small nap and get my body clock right back on. So it's not like I go home and go to bed. I just take a really short nap and then get right back on the clock. I'm 20 years older than her, so it takes me about 2 weeks to recover. But there's only been 2 races that I had really bad blisters on my feet. Heartland, because it's so rocky, and then the Hawk, because it's so rocky.
Once again, the races depend kind of how you're going to feel afterwards,
yeah,
too. Hot,
and
cold, rocky,
yeah.
hilly.
So I actually used crutches just so that my feet could heal up.
Oh, wow.
And so that I could get back moving faster. The first 2 days, watching me go up and down stairs is funny because I have to kind of like sit and do the little crab walk. But other than that, probably I can walk okay. You get stiff and things like that. You get swollen. But I don't usually run for 2 weeks after a race.
So something that you potentially may need crutches afterwards. You guys are selling this really well.
Or go down the
A
stairs,
wheelchair?
basement, or backwards or sideways.
It's funny.
It's the down the stairs
Right.
part where anymore I just tend to go backwards for a week usually.
Yeah. Well, and it's really funny if you're at the end of a race because everybody runs into the finish.
Right.
Then they sit at the finish line and have their beer, their coffee, whatever is their beverage of choice that they really need at that point.
Right.
And then they get up and they can't hardly walk.
Yes.
I mean, it happens just like
I
that.
can imagine,
So
yeah.
it goes from movement to, okay, we're done.
Yeah, I imagine some hydration, maybe getting some carbs or some kind of energy into your system would probably be good. Some light stretching might be good. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I admire both of you so much. I mean, like I was kind of saying before, we have people out there and hopefully they're inspired by this. And we have a lot of active and there's amazing people out there. But just to think about how much that entails to take to do that, it seems kind of easy to do some of the small things like get up and do some of our corrective exercise or go for a walk or do some of those things. So that's amazing that that you guys have a video. I tap, I don't have a hat, but I turn my head to you guys and think that's an awesome thing to be able to do. And that's probably some part of it is just that feeling of achievement, knowing that most people out there, struggle to do any activity, which is understandable. People are busy, and I'm not saying anything about it, but to go that extra and do something where someone like me that's into fitness is just like, well, you guys are. I want to do that. You guys are amazing. So I'm sure that's a big part of it. I think everybody should have something like that where they feel proud of doing, and that can be little things like that you ate healthy today, or
Right.
that you got up and worked out. That we should celebrate those achievements. But when you're really pushing yourself to something that most people can't, get themselves to be able to do, at least mentally, is pretty awesome. Probably, yeah. Good. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add or share with the viewers or share about yourself or want to speak on? I think we're coming up. Oh, Andrea's but we're probably coming up pretty close on that 30-minute mark. So sadly, that's how long our camera, and nobody wants to listen to me talk any longer than that. So maybe you guys.
I don't think I have anything. I think just usually when you tell someone, hey, I'm gonna run 100 miles this weekend, everyone's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. But
Right.
for me, it's just, I think almost doing an ultramarathon is easier than a half, even a full marathon, because you just don't have that pressure of having to run the whole time.
Right.
And everyone is, there's people who they're gonna stop running and they're gonna walk with you for 5 miles until you guys kind of split off at the next aid station. I mean, it is a community, and so for me it's a lot easier to go out and do these longer runs than it is to do a local half marathon or full marathon, just because I feel like I get to take my time and enjoy it and walk whenever I want to, and so that's just one thing that I think there's kind of a misconception that you have to run the whole time.
Yeah.
You definitely do not run the whole time. So.
Yeah, that'd be pretty incredible. Anything, Peggy, you want to finish?
I think one of the most important things would be that if someone wants to get into this, they need to know that they've got to be individually prepared, but they're not going to get to the finish line individually. It takes a lot of people to get you there. It takes the people who are volunteering. It takes your crew. It takes other runners. We all watch out for one another. If she needed something and I had it, I would give it to her, and vice versa. I mean, it's just because you're out there and it might be 10 miles to the next aid station before you see somebody. And so just know that it really is a community, and
That's awesome.
if that is something that they aspire to do, start asking around and they'll find the community of us runners, and we would be more than happy to help
They
the
could
next
probably
people.
comment on this. I'm sure there will be a post, so if they want,
There you
anybody
go.
out there wants to comment on this and try to get involved and have questions, I'm sure we can kind of answer those, and you guys, I'm sure will follow and watch this video since you're in it.
Well,
Someone's always watch.
and one thing there are a lot of ultramarathons in Kansas, which is kind of surprising. You don't have to go very far.
Nice.
You don't have to plan a big trip, even though we've both done the big trip.
Probably fun
to
too.
run. It's fun and totally recommend it, but there's people out there. If you needed someone to run with you on the weekends, there's people out there to do it. And
Excellent.
usually Kansas, other than I think the month of like December and January and probably August,
Yeah.
you're gonna find an ultramarathon in Kansas.
Awesome.
So
Right. Peggy, you have one. Is there still one coming up? Because I
There's
know
one
that
coming up,
obviously
uh-huh,
with our
in
situation
July.
with pandemic, that's
She's got
probably
one in
Kansas.
July too. We
Wow.
both do. So
Yeah, so that'd be nice.
Mhm.
There you go. Well, good luck on
Thank
those things.
you.
Like I said, I respect both of you so much. Thank you so much for your time coming in here, helping out. So go put on your running shoes out there. Go run 100 miles today. You got this. If you guys want any more information, feel free to comment on here. I'm sure somebody will be more than happy. Peggy or Krystle will be. And really appreciate you guys. Good luck. Give them a like. Tell them good luck. And yeah, I guess I will finish up. Thank you, everybody.
thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Living Wichita podcast with GoTimeTraining. If you enjoyed today's show and want to get started with your own fitness journey, I'd love to help kickstart your goals. How do 4 60-minute personal training sessions for $99 with me sound? Head over to www.gotimetraining.com/podcast to claim yours. I can't wait to meet you